Welcome to this special broadcast where we delve deep into one of the most contentious and potentially transformative developments in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the controversial Israeli plan to construct settlements in the E1 area of the West Bank. This isn't just another settlement expansion, it's widely regarded as a critical game changer that could irrevocably alter the landscape of peace efforts. Over the next 12 minutes, we will unpack why this specific plan has ignited such intense debate and concern across the globe. We'll explore its origins, why it was initially shelved, and what has led to its recent reactivation. We'll also examine the profound implications it carries for the future of the two-state solution, the reactions from the international community, and the diverse perspectives from both supporters and opponents of the construction. Join us as we explore the potential for escalation and what this pivotal moment means for long-term stability in the region. To truly grasp why the E1 plan is considered such a critical juncture, we first need to understand its precise location and historical context. E1, which stands for East 1, refers to a crucial 12-square-kilometer land corridor nestled in the heart of the West Bank. Its strategic importance cannot be overstated. This specific area sits directly between East Jerusalem and the large Israeli settlement of Ma'ale Adumim, a city home to over 40,000 Israelis. This seemingly modest stretch of land holds immense geopolitical weight, as its development would fundamentally alter the physical geography of the West Bank, effectively connecting Ma'ale Adumim to Jerusalem. The concept of building in E1 is far from new. The plan was first proposed in the early 1990s under then-Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. The original intention was to create a continuous Israeli urban bloc, ensuring the territorial link between Jerusalem and Ma'ale Adumim. However, this ambitious vision was immediately met with a storm of international opposition. Governments worldwide, particularly the United States and the European Union, quickly recognized that construction in E1 would create a significant wedge in the West Bank, undermining the territorial contiguity essential for a viable Palestinian state. The diplomatic pressure was intense and sustained, leading to the plan being effectively shelved for decades, though it was never formally rescinded. Despite its long dormancy, the E1 plan has seen periodic attempts at reactivation, with its most recent resurgence drawing renewed and vigorous international condemnation. The reasons behind its current re-emergence are complex, often tied to shifts in Israeli domestic politics and perceived changes in the international landscape. For its proponents, building in E1 is presented as a logical step for the natural expansion of Ma'ale Adumim and Jerusalem, addressing housing needs and bolstering security. For others, particularly the Palestinian leadership and many in the international community, its reactivation is viewed as a deliberate and dangerous move to further solidify Israeli control, effectively cutting off East Jerusalem from the rest of the West Bank and delivering a potentially fatal blow to the long-sought two-state solution. The implications of building in E1 extend far beyond just another settlement project. It is widely considered a profound game-changer for the two-state solution, a concept long championed by the international community as the most viable path to peace. The core reason for this designation lies in E1's unique geographical position. Developing this area would create an undeniable physical wedge, effectively bisecting the West Bank and severing the critical link between its northern and southern halves. Imagine the West Bank as a body and E1 as a surgical cut through its torso. This physical division would cripple the territorial contiguity required for any future independent Palestinian state. Without this contiguity, a Palestinian state would be fractured into non-contiguous enclaves, making governance, economic development, and daily life exceedingly difficult, if not impossible. Travel between major Palestinian population centers like Ramallah in the north and Bethlehem or Hebron in the south would be severely impeded, requiring Palestinians to navigate through areas under Israeli control or take lengthy detours. Perhaps the most devastating impact on the two-state solution is E1's role in isolating East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem is envisioned by Palestinians as the capital of their future state, a non-negotiable aspect of their national aspirations. Building in E1 would effectively encircle East Jerusalem from the east, linking Ma'ale Adumim to Jerusalem and creating a contiguous Israeli bloc that would physically separate East Jerusalem from Bethlehem and the rest of the southern West Bank. This would make any future Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem geographically untenable and practically isolated, thereby undermining the very foundation of a politically and economically viable Palestinian state with a recognized capital. Critics argue that this strategic isolation would render the establishment of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state functionally impossible, turning the concept of a two-state solution into a mere theoretical construct rather than a practical pathway to peace. It would eliminate the possibility of a continuous land link that is crucial for a future state's sovereignty and economic viability, pushing the prospects of a negotiated settlement even further out of reach. For many, E1 development represents a final nail in the coffin of the two-state paradigm. Unsurprisingly, the E1 settlement plan has ignited a firestorm of international condemnation, triggering significant diplomatic fallout for Israel. The United Nations, through its various bodies, has consistently reiterated its stance that all settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories are illegal under international law. UN officials and resolutions have frequently called for an immediate halt to all settlement activities, viewing E1 as a particularly egregious violation that directly threatens the two-state solution. The United States, traditionally Israel's staunchest ally, has also expressed serious concerns, though its rhetoric has varied across administrations. While generally opposing actions that undermine the two-state solution, the exact level of pressure applied on Israel regarding E1 has fluctuated. Nevertheless, a strong consensus exists within Washington that such construction complicates future peace efforts. The European Union has been particularly vocal in its opposition. EU foreign ministers have repeatedly issued strong condemnations, warning Israel that E1 construction would constitute a serious obstacle to peace and could have implications for EU-Israel relations. Several individual European nations have also summoned Israeli ambassadors to express their deep disapproval. Beyond Western powers, Arab nations have also voiced their outrage. The Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation have condemned the E1 plan as a deliberate attempt to alter the demographic and geographic character of the West Bank and East Jerusalem, seeing it as a direct affront to Palestinian national aspirations and a violation of international agreements. This collective opposition highlights the potential for E1 to further isolate Israel regionally, complicating any prospects for broader normalization or cooperation in the Middle East. The diplomatic pressure and condemnation signal a clear message from the global community. The E1 plan is not just another building project, but a strategic move with profound and negative consequences for Israel's international standing and its relations with key allies. While the international community largely condemns the E1 plan, it's crucial to understand the diverse perspectives that inform this highly contentious issue. Supporters of the E1 construction often present arguments rooted in urban development, demographic needs, and security concerns. For them, E1 represents a natural and necessary expansion of Ma'ale Adumim, one of Israel's largest settlements, arguing that it's essential for continuous urban development and to accommodate the growing population. Some proponents also highlight the perceived need to address housing shortages within Jerusalem, viewing E1 as a strategic area to provide more affordable residential options for Israelis. From a security standpoint, the area is sometimes described as vital for creating a continuous Israeli presence between Jerusalem and the Jordan Valley, enhancing security control over a critical corridor. They argue that this construction is a matter of legitimate Israeli planning and development within areas they consider under their control. However, these arguments are met with fierce opposition from various fronts. Palestinian leaders unequivocally reject the E1 plan, viewing it as a deliberate act of annexation and a fatal blow to any realistic prospect of a viable contiguous Palestinian state. They emphasize that building an E1 would sever East Jerusalem from the rest of the West Bank, effectively isolating Bethlehem and the southern West Bank and fragmenting Palestinian territorial continuity. Human rights organizations, along with a broad spectrum of international critics, echo these concerns, detailing serious legal and humanitarian objections. They point to the displacement of Bedouin communities in the area and the impact on their traditional way of life, arguing that the construction constitutes a violation of international humanitarian law, which prohibits an occupying power from transferring its own population into occupied territory. The consensus among opponents is that E1 is not merely an expansion, but a strategic move designed to preclude the two-state solution by making a future Palestinian state geographically impossible. The construction in E1 carries a very real and significant risk of exacerbating existing tensions and potentially igniting a new wave of violence. For Palestinians, this plan is not merely another settlement expansion. It is widely perceived as the final geographic blow to their aspirations for a contiguous state, cutting off East Jerusalem from the rest of the West Bank. This sense of profound injustice and the perceived futility of political solutions could fuel widespread popular anger. Such anger is highly likely to manifest in increased protests and demonstrations across the West Bank, potentially escalating into more frequent and intense clashes with Israeli security forces and settlers. The move could also embolden militant factions, leading to a rise in organized attacks, thereby trapping both sides in a cycle of retaliation. Furthermore, implementing the E1 plan would severely erode any remaining trust between the Israeli and Palestinian leaderships. It would be seen as a unilateral act that definitively closes the door on a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders, making the resumption of meaningful peace negotiations incredibly challenging, if not impossible. The international community's repeated warnings about E1 underscore the fear that this particular construction could destabilize the region further, diminishing prospects for long-term peace and fostering a climate of sustained instability. The E1 settlement plan represents a critical juncture, with its far-reaching implications for the viability of a two-state solution and regional stability. It is seen as a pivotal move that could fragment Palestinian contiguity and isolate East Jerusalem. The international community, supporters, and opponents all recognize the immense weight of this decision,